What's going on, everyone? It's Adam here from No Shelf Space, and one thing you guys have always been saying to me is, hey, Adam, tell us what your favorite games are in a specific genre, but make that genre up however you want. So this isn't deck building, this isn't worker placement, this isn't any of that. It's animals. It is games with animals. Now, as a caveat, this is not fantasy games with animals, so Everdell's not on this list and things like that. This is games that revolve around actual animals, zoos, plains of Africa. I'm sure you know where we're going with this video. Now, I love little meeples, Anna meeples. I love giraffes and elephants and cougars and lions and whatever I can get my hands on. And so, of course, the upcoming Zoo Tycoon. Played the video game as a kid. Upcoming Zoo Tycoon, I've definitely backed it. Can't wait for it to get here. We'll have content on that. But right now, I'm going to show you my 5 favorite games that involve animals in my board game collection. Let's take a look. Now, the first one is actually kind of a cheat because it's not in my collection. My brother-in-law actually owns this one, and it's Ark Nova. It's probably the densest game on the list. I don't have a box to show you because it's not here. It's not behind me. It's not anywhere. But it's probably the densest game on the list. You'll be building out your zoo with different animals. You have a board where you're going to be placing enclosures and things like that for your animals. And it's a pretty deep game. Fantastic artwork, great gameplay. A lot of people don't like it, but it's a lot of people do as well. And I've played it twice now, I think maybe 3 times. And I quite enjoy the gameplay loop of Ark Nova. It's a fun one. It doesn't have the meeples like all of the other games I'm about to show you do. But it's just a solid experience. It's deep. It's a little heavy. If you're looking for a deep, heavy zoo experience, great gameplay, beautiful art on the cards, so much to think about and work on, I would highly recommend Ark Nova, number 5. Number 4 on my list, we're heading to Africa. In fact, we're heading to the wild Serengeti. Now, this one was kickstarted a few years ago, and I wanted to back it, and I didn't because I felt like the price tag was just so high. There's tons of high quality meeples in the box. There's so much. The components are great, but I was like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And I saw some reviews, and people were like, it's okay, it's not great, it's really long, and so I didn't do it. Went on vacation. I found the game for $40 on clearance, and so I snapped it up, brought it home. And I would say that this is actually one I really do enjoy. In Wild Serengeti, you're playing a videographer. You're going to Africa, and you're trying to create these snapshots, pictures, videos. Doesn't really matter. You're trying to create this snapshot of animals in a specific pattern on the board. So you got this big grid in front of you, and people are going to be taking actions with their little pawns, and they're going to be putting animals on the board. They're going to be manipulating where animals are on that board until you get your animals into the row or the pattern or whatever it might be that is on the cards in front of you, and you'll score points for that. And those cards will give you bonuses. They'll give you icons that will score you points at the end of the game. It's a slog, though. It's a very long game. Played over a number of rounds, and it takes time. The other thing you got to be okay with is don't get too invested in those cards you have, because someone might move an animal between your turns. So you might be setting up the board to finish a card, and you're like, I just got to move one more animal, and I'll do that on my next turn. By the time your next turn comes, that whole situation could be destroyed. So there's a lot of thinking about how you do it and what's the best strategic movement, and when to make those pushes and when to do things that are kind of bold. So you can't go into this one expecting everything to go smooth. You'll plan and somebody else will wreck it. I guarantee it. But that's number 4. Wild Serengeti. My number 3 is actually a pretty old game. It's one that I've had for a very long time. And again, this is the second lie I've told in this video. This one doesn't have meeples, Anna meeples in it, little wooden pieces. It just has little tokens for the animals. But this one's called Zoo Loretto. Now, in Zoo Loretto, you're going to be taking, drawing animals and the booths and things like that from a bag and placing them on trucks. And after a while, you're going to pick one of the trucks on the table. You're going to put it in front of you, and whatever's on that truck, you're going to then place into your zoo, and you're going to have a whole bunch of enclosures where these animals need to go, and only one kind of animal can be in each enclosure. And some enclosures will have 4 spots, some will have 6. There's one I think with 7, and the goal is actually to fill up the whole enclosure, because that's how you get maximum points. And if you happen to put a male and a female in the same enclosure, they'll actually breed and they'll have a baby, and you'll be able to grab a little baby piece and add it to the enclosure as well. The thing is, you don't want to take certain animals, because if you don't have room for them in your park, they're going to go into your barn and you're going to lose points for them at the end of the game, although other people can buy animals from your barns and you can buy from their barns. It's a great gameplay loop. It's very easy to teach. And it's really engaging as well. I really like that one. That's number 3, Zoo Loretto. And look at that. Little cute panda on there. My number 2 game is one, again, that I had heard nothing about. This one is New York Zoo. Now, this is from famed designer Uwe Rosenberg, who makes a lot of these style games. And in this game, you're going to be moving your character around a board, and you're going to be collecting either animals to put in your zoo, or you're going to be collecting different size tiles. Like it might have like 3 in a row, or it might be a square, or it could be like a weird shape of tiles, and you're going to be using those tiles to fill in a zoo board in front of you, and the player to fully fill out their zoo wins the game. And by collecting animals and putting them on your boards, if you like fill up an entire enclosure with animals, you'll take the animals off. You can save some, but you're going to be taking the animals off, and then you get to grab one of those unique pieces that will help you fill in those little holes and those little areas on the board. Because like I said, the tiles are all different sizes. They're all wacky. You've played Patchwork, I think you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But this one's a fun one. It has a lot of great little animals. There's breeding in this as well. So, you know, if you cross over flamingo breeding and you have at least 2 flamingos in an enclosure, you're going to be able to take a 3rd flamingo and put it in there. Again, quite a bit of strategy in this one. This is number 2, New York Zoo. Number 1 is a game I backed a long time ago as well on Kickstarter. Mostly because I love zoo games, I love animals, and this one had so many animals in the box, and it looked so engaging, because not only were you placing, in most of the other games we're talking about, the art is there, it looks good, but you don't get that real feeling of building a zoo. Like even Ark Nova, you're just laying cards in front of you. You're not really like building the paths and building the enclosures. This one, Zoography. This one is by Doomsday Robots. Highly recommended if you can find it. I don't think I've ever seen this for purchase in the wild, but I backed it. I got the Zoomungus Deluxe Edition. Came with tons more meeples and different solo animals. This one, you really are building a zoo. You're going to be drafting tiles from a pile and then building out your zoo. And when you build enclosures, there are certain animals that can be in an enclosure together. And you'll get this really cool card that shows you, hey, you can put a zebra and an elephant together in the same enclosure. But an elephant requires a watering hole because it's a big animal. And if you have a big animal, for every big animal, you need a watering hole. Lots of strategy in how you build out this your park. Tons of animals to put in the park. This is so much fun. This is easily my favorite of all the animal games I have. And it's one that I think they're coming out with an expansion for. It might be an aquatics expansion, like aquariums and things like that. It's a day one purchase for me. Like, they could put a pretty high price tag on this, and I would buy the expansion for Zoography. But this is easily my favorite. This is my number 1. Can be played competitively, can be played cooperatively. It is just a really, really good experience. And if you ever see this in the wild, and there's a much smaller box. There's literally like a box that's like this big. And it has card tiles instead of cardboard tiles, and it has little tokens instead of meeples. But it plays the exact same way, and it's in a tiny little box. If you can ever even find that, like, check it out. It's such a great game. But that is my favorite. Anyway, guys, there you go. Those are my 5 favorites. Number 5 was Ark Nova. Number 4 was Wild Serengeti. Number 3 was Zoo Loretto. Number 2 was New York Zoo. And number 1 was Zoography. Let me know if you enjoy this style of content. I like to make it. Like, people want to know what my preferences are and what games I like to play. I would love to do like a big box. I would love to do other things. So if you like this video, please leave a comment down below, like, subscribe, and we'll chat again real soon. Goodbye.